Now, I don't agree with everything Alex Jones says, but he's absolutely right about feminism. Anyone who's looked into it knows that he's right. The major feminists know that he's right. Because when you have someone who is responsible for the feminist movement, basically, you know, the Eastern Star, the main, most educated feminists, to think that they don't know these things is preposterous, it's absurd, it's outlandish, it's simply not the case. You know, it is a very drastic and dramatic form of intellectual dishonesty. Let's not kid ourselves. And what things am I talking about here? Let me give you a little clip.
And I ask you to look in the mirror and ask yourselves, what are you doing in this time of great challenge?
Well, after this part.
To break down how they had to get women to see men as the enemy. And again, she went on to say, we'll use blacks because they're the weakest group, they're the poorest group, they're the most institutionalized group. At that time, just being 70 years or so out of slavery in the 1860s. She said, what we'll do is just like we had the old system of the women were brought into the house. You're getting the big secret of feminism right now. Just like the house slave was always a woman and the men were kept out in the barn and weren't allowed to read or write, we're going to set women up as the minders of society again. There's actually Roman handbooks on this from 2,000 years ago where they talk about, with white slaves at that time, mainly from Western Europe, you bring in the slaves, you kill a couple of the men in front of the women, you even kill some of the kids, and you tell the women, it's your job to keep these men in line or we're going to kill all of you. And they found that women, believing they were protecting people, would become incredible oppressors and tattletales over the men. And then within a few generations, they started enjoying the oppression and didn't even do it to, quote, protect the men. And I was reading about how they retranslated those Roman documents from Latin into French and then into English by the 1820s or so in the sugarcane plantations. I'm giving you history here. Heavy truth, folks. The sugarcane plantations of the Caribbean, they would bring a ship of slaves in. Already half of them on average from Africa would have died in the trip over because they didn't really feed them from Africa. And they'd get them off the coffin ship, and then they would kill the most well-spoken, obvious leader just from body language and things.
Now think about it. Why are they gang-stalking the most opinionated people out there? Some of the most well-spoken people you'll ever see are TIs. Not all of them are, you know, political activists such as myself. Why are they doing that? What did he just say? The first thing they would do was kill the most outspoken leaders. Okay, get rid of strong male leaders. Put women in charge. It's going to do a lot of things at the same time. It's going to weaken the men. It's going to set the stage for gender feminism. It's going to control the men. And it's going to set the stage for feminism in general in the future. And it's going to... You're going to have somebody who you can control who enjoys their position of power. Now watch how he explains it.
Of the blacks that was alive in front of the women, they'd beat their brains out or they would hang them. And they'd tell the women, we're going to kill all your male children if you don't keep everybody in line. Is that understood? And they found the women would do whatever they were told. So that's where you get the mammy in all the Three Stooges movies and stuff, bossing the black guys around, and in all the old movies that are still, you know, representing what really happened in history, where the black woman is in charge, and she's got the big, you know, big mammy outfit on, Aunt Jemima, and she's in there telling those black men, you do what you're told. In fact, in this culture, it got so dominant that my father, when he would pick cotton, and he did pick cotton, even though he came from a middle-class family.
All right, so I don't think we need to hear that story. Basically, feminism is part of the New World Order's plan. If you hear what he's talking about in the beginning of the clip, he's talking about the Romans. Remember the Club of Rome. Remember the Pythagoreans, who the Masons cite as the main people who influenced the beginnings of Masonry. I don't think people truly the beginnings of Masonry in Europe and England. I don't think people truly understand the dangers of feminism. A good documentary to watch or video is Feminism is a Form of Jewish Control by Awakened Sleepers. It's on YouTube. Also, it's important to note the intimacy needs are greater in men, therefore women have pussy power. You know, you got to realize that men are historically the most outspoken threat to oppression. They're the people who start revolutions. Name one time a woman started a revolution. You know, it just doesn't happen. They're the main people that you have to neutralize if you're going to oppress people, suppress people, and repress people. So these people, they took it out of the playbook of Rome, because as my father once said, white people long ago are a lot more smart, decisive, insidious, incisive than white people today. And there's also an old saying that says, if it's not broken, don't fix it. He also talks about Margaret Sanger, and I'm going to use illustrations on this one. I'm going to show you the Margaret Sanger picture that he used. Her speaking at a clown rally. Ask yourself why somebody who would heavily influence the left is speaking to a group of people who would become the right. Because this left-right paradigm was a long time coming. Even before America, it existed. And existed for the purpose to divide the sheep and to have a plan that's going to be fulfilled regardless which side is in charge. And he also brings up that abortion is the #1 cause of death. Let's hear this part of the clip.
Cancer, 1.6 mil. Heart disease, 2.2 mil. Abortion, 11,156,700. And then
that was from 1973 to 2001, according to that chart that they're citing. Abortion far outranks other things as a leading cause of African American deaths. I've touched on this in other videos where they say, you know, Black Lives Matter, and it's the left pushing that idea, and they're the main ones killing black people. How sick is that? They're the main eugenicist filth, and they package it as women's rights, and the fact that you people buy into this shit, that disgusts me. The only thing that disgusts me more than they're doing it is that you're buying into it. You know, the devil's on your fucking shoulder, and it's so painfully obvious what they're doing. Painfully. And ironically, you know, Islam, the religion that respects women the most, is cited as the most oppressive religion to women. How disgusting is that? How disgusting is that? What kind of satanic Jewish mind control is going on, you know? It's quite simple. This is a Western European and Jewish conspiracy for the most part. Have no doubt in your mind about that. The UK, France, Germany are the biggest players. And then, of course, there's the Jews. This is the world we live in, where men have greater intimacy needs than women, and they play on that to have pussy power. And they try to blur the line between men and women. You see it in Alice in Wonderland, the Queen of Hearts. Make no mistake, the Queen of Hearts was a feminist. If you don't understand that, you're far out of touch. Did she let the man be in charge because he's a man? Or did she challenge his role to the point where she was angry? Just like these feminists who are angry, the real bitches. You look at these Jewish feminists, you know, Gloria Steinem, all these, they're bitter women, sometimes old women. They're fucking scum. Okay? Oh, Eastern Star, devil-faced whores. Even when they're smiling, if you look carefully, you'll see the devil in them. And just like the Queen of Hearts, they're very angry, and they're out of pocket. You know? The King of Hearts, you know, he's a little bitch. That's what feminism is. It's not equality. Is the queen equal to the king, or is the king a little bitch like, okay. You have the pussy power, you have the power, because what happened? The woman went from having the pussy power, which was enough to give her equality, regardless of gender roles. Regardless of gender roles. Because we all know, men sleep on the couch when their woman's mad. And if a man does get the woman to have sex when she's upset, she's not going to be as into it. And since man has such great intimacy needs, it's important that his wife is looking good, feeling good, and putting out good. Come on. It's common fucking sense. I shouldn't have to tell anyone this. So one way, so this Queen of Hearts oversteps her bounds, and that to them is equality, you know? But like, what's wrong with the queen being equal to the king? Because it's not equality. The queen has fucking usurped the king, and she's a real bitch, and the king is a mangina. He's a pussy-whipped coward, letting a complete street-walking prostitute, slattern, succubi whore usurp his power. How divisive is that? How devious is that? How sinister is that? The sacrilegious, blasphemous school of thought known as feminism has you cowards in check. You are so in check. You are so unreasonably in check. No self-respecting man would be with a feminist. Period. Period. I'll say it again. No self-respecting man would be with, much less marry, a feminist. That's like marrying fucking the she-devil, you know? Marrying a she-devil. And I'm going to show you one last chart. I hope I illustrate this earlier in the video too. Is where you'll see one side where it says sexual freedom and the results of that. And you see the bottom, I think it was the bottom 2 women. You know, you'll see it on the chart. You see the bottom 2 or 3 women don't reproduce. And the bottom 6, this is out of 10, of men don't reproduce. And so all the women, except for the 10, because she can't go higher, are dating men that are better than they are. If you look at what qualifies equality, you know, I've said before that everybody deserves their equal. And if you look at the other category, monogamous relationships, everyone gets their equal. This is for the most part. Obviously, it's not always going to be like that. But for the most part, people get their equals in a society that's religious, strong, spiritual, moral, and religious values. Everyone tends to get their equal. In a society where you have sexual freedom, which is feminism. Don't slut shame. Don't fat shame. What is this? It's setting up the category of the sexual freedom where a man who's a 10 has to settle for 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s. Okay? And a man who's a 7 has to settle for a fucking, what was it, a 3 or 4? I mean, how ridiculous is that? How absolutely obnoxious, unfair, and sick is that? Really though? Really though? Do I really have to explain why sexual freedom is not equality, is not fair play? You don't understand, people. You don't understand the society that you're living in. You don't understand what fair play really means. And they're taking advantage of that. You have to go back to the Bible. You have to contemplate. You have to meditate on these things. As I've written in the comments on anger issues, religion versus psychiatry, and secret society versus open society, I say, how many of you would like to be a 7-man settling for 3 and 4 women? Because feminists have used their pussy power, sexual bribery, Eastern Star secret society network, allies in the Democratic Party, etc. to have their demonic fucking way. Let us not forget, even the 9 men are settling for 7s and 6s. Imagine being damn near perfect and having to settle for bitches slightly above average regularly. Not to mention the STDs it spreads. Women don't care if half the world die. They've already shown you that feminism are part of the eugenics party. They've shown you they don't care how many people die, as long as they have their way, as long as they're telling men what to do, and men are pussy whip manginas, and they can blur the line between men and women. They don't care who has to die. They don't care how unfair it is for men. They don't care if a man who's damn near perfect is settling for an average bitch. And an average bitch in America, where over 60% of women are overweight, is a fat, ignorant bitch. Imagine being a 9 out of 10, settling for fat, ignorant bitches regularly. Welcome to my life story. No, it wasn't that bad, but it damn near was. Because my life, there's a mix between monogamous relationships and sexual freedom. And if you look at the women I've dated, which I talk about in my other videos, that's what's happened to me. Is I had to settle for a lot of bitches, and that's what made me mad. So absolutely, this chart is right.